planet is hosting the Grail. The planet is saying, hey, here is an opportunity for new mutations to be created in order to address this in a whole new way. And what this is creating is the ability for us to combat, I hate the word combat because that gives kind of a warlike image. So I'm going to try to use a different word. For us to compensate, or for us to adapt, that's the word I was looking for. For us to adapt to these changes in a completely new way. We need to stop looking at anything that's different. I mean, we talk about it all the time, right? Those of us that are a little weird, we say my weird doesn't necessarily mean wrong. Weird just means different, right? We're different. And there are many new people in the world, for example, that are coming in thanks to this planetary illness that's happening, that have different abilities. Now, historically, we as human beings have always looked at different abilities as disabilities. We even use that term. You're handicapped, you're disabled. If you look at all the different types of rare diseases out there, or any kind of disease at all, we always treat them with the same idea of this is something that needs to be cured so that you can go back to being what is considered normal. But going back into being what is normal is not an evolution. It's not a transformation, and it's definitely not an adaptation to what's happening. So, of course, we're going to look at the changes of our planet, which today, for the first time in history, we're able to watch as they happen, in part because they're happening quickly, but more than anything also because we have the technology to see it. We are seeing things that in the past our ancestors never saw. So our ancestors really, in many cases, adapted with that. And hence why we went from things like Homo denison and Homo Neanderthal to what we are today as Homo sapiens, was an adaptation co-created with the planet. And then at some point we started to split off. We started to think of ourselves as independent, and we started to look at the planet around us as something that we could manipulate and control. But we know deep down that we cannot manipulate and control everything. And therefore, what we really want is to fluidly co-create with it. And so this planetary illness that is happening right now is giving us the ability to see new mutations that are being created that today seem like a disability, but really could be the future of how humans adapt and evolve into many different types of species that are able to deal with different things. So hopefully this is all making sense. It's kind of a big concept, and it's a little bit of a difficult concept sometimes to wrap your head around, because we are just so used to the conversation being around disability and conservation. So the idea of going back, the idea of looking at and taking a step back and looking at things from a different concept and saying, wait a minute, could something like autism actually be an evolution? Could there be elements of autism that allow these people, these children, the ability to see the world in a completely different way, and therefore interact, adapt, and even grow with the planet in a completely different way? Could what's happening inside of the mind, especially for those that can't communicate necessarily, which are the ones that we consider to be the people who are maybe autistic, or we consider them to not being able to communicate, we look at that again as a disease. Could that be the evolution of telepathy? Could that be the evolution of new senses that allow them to enter into communication and communion with the planet in a completely different way? Could it be that we are the old and outdated by using our mouths, by using our hands in certain ways, instead of using the language of music or using the language of color? Could it be that the person who sees colors as a conversation actually be an advancement? And we sort of see this in a few ways, and there are some socially accepted ways that we experience this. For example, something like a person who has a spiritual gift, we look at them as a sort of evolution. But we don't see it in other types of experiences, because we are used to the idea that able-bodied mean I have two arms, I have two legs, and therefore I move in the world. We haven't allowed these other types of expressions of human life to really step forward and manifest and continue to evolve into their natural state. So we don't know. And these are oftentimes reactions to the planetary illness that's happening. Now, I'm not saying that every single form of illness is absolutely, transformational. The part that makes it transformational is the way we interact with it. It's the way you and your mind and your expression deals with that adversity. The same way as what this whole evolution that's happening on the planet will really mean is all based on the actions we take because of it. So using the example of when we think about pollution in certain ways, right? Pollution in certain areas has allowed for breakthroughs in the co-creation of spaces to clean up that pollution in a way that is in harmony with the planet, right? That space being polluted has allowed a community to come together, has reunited us, has allowed that community to see that they're stronger when they're reconnected, and that they can find solutions that are actually in harmony with nature and that improve the area from what it originally was. I mean, if you look at the work of somebody like John Todd, right, who creates John Todd, for those of you that don't know, creates what he calls these eco-machines. And the eco-machine is a form of cleaning up mostly water that is completely in harmony with different ecosystems. So he creates, bacteria ecosystems and plant ecosystems and rock ecosystems, and all of these integrated to create a natural solution that will clean the water. And some of his eco-machines have been installed in things like canals in Asia that have turned something that was a waste area, something that humanity has designated as this is the area where things kind of get thrown out, has instead turned that into a beautiful, walkable area that allows the community to come together, uniting the people that live there by giving them a place where they can interact with water. And for those of you that have a spiritual context, you know that water is all about emotions. And so therefore, there's an emotional connection that is being created with the land itself, with all the organisms that are now living in there, and with the people. So now you have an entirely huge ecosystem that has all been created by looking at a problem, by looking at an illness, by looking at the planet or being in a disarray in this particular sort of area, and looking at it as an opportunity to evolve. And what has been evolved? What's evolved is community, which we know is the real nugget of truth that is going to get us out of this problem. The more united we are as humans, the more united we are as a society, the more we're able to really push and continue to evolve together. Because when you are united, you evolve faster. Coevolution in nature is significantly faster than the evolution of the individual, because each species pushes on the other to help them reach their best, to help them stretch beyond what their normal limits are. And so therefore, if we look at the planetary illness that's happening right now with the massive amounts of all types of pollution, sound pollution, smell pollution, physical pollution, water pollution, all kinds of different pollution, mental pollution, and economic pollution. I mean, we have really pollution on a massive scale, which is the massive illness that our planet is choosing to hold space for us, because we know they know how to clean themselves up. We know that any area that's been left in disarray, that's been left polluted, eventually over a long period of time, nature will clean. Nature will find the elements it needs to turn radioactive into non-radioactive, to turn heavy metals into something that is distilled, into something that is benign for humans. We know that over long periods of time, the planet itself can heal from all of its wounds. But humanity doesn't have the lifespan right now to be able to wait those long periods of time. So the planet is hosting this pollution, this illness for us, to give us an opportunity to evolve to the next level of ourselves, to transform into what we are supposed to be, which is diversely able individuals each one working together in a multidisciplinary aspect, in a transdisciplinary aspect, where each of us have roles to fill and we trust each other enough because we are a community to really work together in harmony and to be able to evolve to the next level of self, to evolve to the next level together. Plants, animals, humans, nature spirits, all the other beings, all the fungi, all the different bacteria. What we're moving toward is the fact that those that unite and work together and begin to evolve together are the ones that will survive, and those that continue to host the status quo of individualism and the idea that every mutation is negative is going to pass off. This is the big thing that we know that is happening right now in the planet.